Hi everyone, welcome to another story time with the BSM. Today I will be reading The Persian Cinderella by Shirley Climo and art by Robert Florzak. Long ago, when Persia was a land of princes and poets, there lived a maiden named Sitara. Her name meant star, and it was given to her on the day she was born because of a star shaped mark on her left cheek.
Sitara had scarcely opened her eyes to see or her mouth to cry when her mother died. Although she lived with her stepmother, two stepsisters, three aunts, and four female cousins in the women's part of the house, she was often lonely. Sitara seldom saw her father, for he was busy in the world of men. Her stepmother and aunts ignored her, paying no more heed to her than to a fly on the wall. She belonged to no one, and nothing belonged to her. She wore her stepsisters' cast off clothes and ate their leftovers, sometimes finding only melon rinds to fill her dish. Even so, Sitara grew lovelier with the years. The brows above her dark eyes arched as gracefully as the path of an arrow, and her long black hair gleamed like polished ebony. She was delicate, with slender ankles and tiny feet, but her beauty only added to her misery, for it made her stepsisters jealous.
Sometimes Leela, the older sister, would pinch Sitara's cheek and scoff, "That's not a star, it's a dirty spot." Nahid, the second sister, would wrinkle her nose in disgust. "Our little sister must wash in a mud puddle."
Then Sitara would run into the walled garden and scrub her face in the fountain, but she could never rub off the mark. One morning in late winter, Sitara's father honored the women's quarters with a visit. Prince Mirdad invites all to the royal palace for Nowruz, the new year, he announced. Opening his money pouch, he gave everyone a large gold coin. Buy cloth in the bazaar to make new clothes, he told them. As he handed Sitara her coin, he patted her hand and added, "Choose wisely." Each girl and every woman, no matter her age, covered her head with a cloak, so that no stranger might look on her face. Then, like a flock of blackbirds, the mothers, daughters, sisters, and cousins flew down the road to the marketplace.
Goats bleated and donkeys brayed.
Merchants hawked pearls drawn from the waters of the Persian Sea, and traders shouted prices for silks brought by Camel's caravan from faraway China. Carpets woven in jewel-like colors brightened the walls, and the scent of ginger and cinnamon from the Indies and perfumed oils from Egypt hung in the air. Sitara sniffed something familiar too, toasted almonds. She turned and saw a peddler stirring a pan of nuts over a brazier. She had nothing to eat that day, and her mouth watered. Shyly, Sitara held out her gold coin. Quickly, the peddler snatched it. He gave her a wrapper of warm almonds and a handful of small silver coins in return. Sitara finished the nuts in two mouthfuls and then counted her money. "I can still buy cloth," she said. She pushed through the crowd, anxious to find her family again. But as she hurried, a wrinkled woman tugged on her cloak and held out a brass bowl. "Spare a coin, young mistress," she begged. Sitara hesitated. The old lady was shivering, and her robe hung in tatters. "You are in more need of new clothes than I, grandmother," Sitara said. Opening her fingers, she let most of her coins clatter into the woman's bowl. "Good fortune come to you," the crone cried, "and soon." Sitara smiled and looked down at the remaining coins. "At least I may buy a new sash," she told herself.
As she hastened past the pottery stall, Sitara saw a small jug laying in the dust. It was made of ordinary clay and had a jagged crack running down one side, but it was glazed with a blue as bright as the sky. Sitara could not take her eyes from it.
"That pot, is it for sale?" she asked the shopkeeper. He peered at her. "It is worth much," he began. Sitara couldn't resist picking up the jar. It felt as warm to her touch as something alive. "This is all I have," she offered him her last three coins. "Please." The shopkeeper sold Sitara the little blue jug. Her stepsisters could not believe what Sitara had bought with her money. "A leaky old pot," squealed Nahid. "Now you will have nothing to wear to Nowruz," Leela scolded. "That's unlucky. You will disgrace us." Then I shall not go to Prince Merdad's festival, Sitara retorted, but she feared she had not chosen wisely. Nowruz was only 8 days away.
The new year began on the first day of spring. Already the snow that iced the Alborz mountains was melted beneath the midday sun, and many colored wildflowers carpeted the hillside. Inside the women's quarters, everyone was busy measuring and cutting and stitching their new clothes. Sitara sat alone in the garden, listening to the call of a turtle dove in a pomegranate tree and holding her little blue jug.
I don't care if you are cracked, Sitara rubbed the pot with her fingers, but I wish you were filled with jasmine blossoms. The jug began to quiver, and her fingertips tingled. Suddenly the air was sweet with fragrance, and her jar brimmed with white flowers. Magic! She gasped. On the outside, the jug looked as always. On the inside, perhaps a pari? If the fairy granted one wish, would it grant another? Please, little jug, Sitara whispered, I am hungry. A basket of figs and apricots appeared before her. Then she said, Little jug, I am cold. And at once she was wrapped in a warm shawl of the softest goat hair. She said, Little jug, I am lonely. The dove flew down from the tree, perched on her shoulder, and cooed in her ear. Sitara did not ask for more, fearing her stepmother and stepsisters might notice. The pari in the jar was her own secret.
The evening of New Year, Sitara watched while all the others paraded their new fine clothes. Leela smirked and smoothed her sea green dress, saying, It is too bad you cannot attend Prince Mirdad's festival, Sitara.
She would rather stay here and talk to her old pot, Nahid said, for she had spied her stepsister whispering to it. Sitara did not answer, but as the gates of the courtyard flung shut behind the others, she picked up her blue jug. Would you kindly give me a gown for Nowruz? She asked. The jug in her hands grew warm and began to jiggle. When it stopped trembling, a dark red silk dress, the color of ripe pomegranate, was spread before her. Beside it lay a golden pendant to hang about her neck, and a turquoise bracelet to wear on her wrists. But best of all, there were two small diamond-studded anklets to sparkle at her ankles. Sitara patted the jug. Thank you, she said. Then she dressed quickly and covered her head with a scarf and said, I am ready to go.
One magic moment later, she found herself outside Prince Mirdad's palace. Sitara climbed the marble staircase and glanced timidly into the arcade on her right.
A handsome youth stared boldly back at her, smiled and stroked his beard. Sitara clutched her scarf to her face and fled through the arcade on her left.
She found herself in a huge hall filled with women. They sat on silk cushions and helped themselves to heaping trays of roasted lamb and whitefish, to spiced cucumber, sweet oranges and tart rhubarb, and to goblets of sherbet cooled with mountain snow.
Musicians plucked tunes on lutes and sitars, and cymbals rang as dancers twirled. Magicians juggled flashing knives, and snake charmers from India coaxed cobras from their basket. Poets rhymed verses, and fortune tellers read the fortune from their star charts. No one recognized Sitara. She kept her head bent and her star marked hidden. Even Leela and Nahid, dazzled by her finery, believed her to be a princess from some distant land. When the rushlights burned low, and the music and amusement ended, how could time fly so? Cried Sitara, dismayed.
She would pay a dear price if her stepmother returned and found her bed empty. Sitara fled the palace, running through the twisting streets.
In her haste, she did not feel a diamond bangle slip from her ankle. She did not hear it splash into the shallow canal that flowed beside the road. She did not discover her loss until she reached home. All night the anklet lay in the ditch, but by morning the sun shone on the water and made the diamonds flash. A horse drinking from the ditch snorted and reared. Steady! Shouted a stable boy, tugging at his reins. He fished the anklet from the water. I must show this to my master. Extraordinary! The horse master exclaimed, blinking at the band of diamonds. I must take this to the palace. A tiny treasure, Prince Mirdad declared, dangling the bangles from his fingers. I must find the one who wore it. How can a man look for a maiden? Said Mirdad's mother, the queen. What do you know of women and their ways? She rose. I will find the owner of that anklet.
The queen ordered her bearers to carry her curtained palanquin to every household in the city. In each, she bid the women to put on the bangle. Prince Mirdad wishes to meet the maiden who can wear it, she explained.
Young and old tried to squeeze into that anklet. They pushed their heels and pulled their toes until their feet were pinched and purple, but not even the thinnest among them could put it on. At last the queen called at the house where Sitara lived. One after another, the stepmother, aunts, and cousins failed to force on the anklet. Although Layla and Nahid cleverly oiled their feet, they still could not wriggle their slippery toes through the band. Enough, the queen snapped. As she turned to go, Sitara appeared wearing the red dress, the golden necklace, and the turquoise bracelet. Sitara crossed her arms above her chest, bowed to the queen, and said, "Please allow me, exalted one." Without difficulty, she eased her foot through the diamond bangle. As her stepmother and stepsisters stared in disbelief, she lifted the hem of her gown and revealed the matching anklet. "Come," the queen said. "The prince awaits you at the palace." "One moment, if you will," stammered Sitara. She hurried to fetch her little jug from the garden. Leela followed and pinched her arm. "How?" she demanded. "There is a pari in my jug. I need only wish." Pulling away, Sitara ran to the queen's palanquin.
The queen gave Sitara a mirror so that she might gaze at the prince's reflection without the embarrassment of facing him. Sitara peered into it and caught her breath.
She had seen those eyes, that smile, even that beard before. Now he wore a tulip-shaped turban, but this surely was the man she had glimpsed at Nowruz. Mirdad stared back. "Sitara!" he exclaimed. "My star!" Sitara had forgotten that he could see her image in the looking-glass too. Quickly she covered her cheek with her hand. "No," Prince Mirdad pulled her fingers away. "Your mark is heaven sent. The stars foretell that we shall marry." Sitara knelt and touched her head to the ground. Then she looked up at him and said, "You honor me."
The queen summoned Sitara's father to arrange the marriage. For 39 days, the entire kingdom celebrated. Sitara invited her stepsisters to join the festivities in the palace, but even that did not please them. They grew more jealous and vengeful with every passing day.
On the 40th morning, Leela grumbled, "Today is Aga, the wedding ceremony. Sitara will become a princess." "Why not me?" Nahid threw a cushion at the palace cat. "Why not you?" "Perhaps," Leela murmured, "if Sitara were gone." "Then the Peri would help us," Nahid squealed. The sisters looked at each other and giggled. "Why not?" While Sitara strolled with the queen in the palace garden, her stepsisters slipped into her room, pried open her chest, and snatched the little blue jug. Leela held it up. "Listen," she ordered. "We want Sitara gone, forever. Give us a way to get rid of her." The little blue jug shuddered. It grew so hot that smoke seeped through its crack. "Help!" Leela screamed, dropping it. The jug shattered, and scattered along the bits of blue clay gleamed 6 jeweled hairpins. "Ah," said Nahid, picking them up. "Special pins for our special sister."
That afternoon, the stepsisters slyly offered to arrange Sitara's hair for the ceremony. First, they washed it in scented rose water, and then they brushed it until it shone.
"Married women must pin up their hair," advised Leela. She coiled Sitara's hair at the nape of her neck and pushed in one of the pins. "Ouch!" cried Sitara. "How clumsy of me," Leela said. "Let me try again." She thrust another pin into Sitara's hair, and another, and another. "Please," Sitara began, but her voice grew weak. 5, 6, Nahi jabbed in the last hairpins. "Done." With those words, Sitara vanished. In her place trembled a small gray turtle dove. It cooed mournfully and flew out the palace window.
"Where is my star?" Prince Mirdad demanded. "I cannot find her." "Sitara has flown," Leela giggled, "but we are here." Nahid smiled and said sweetly, "Why not choose one of us?"
"No one can ever take her place," cried the prince. He ordered searches throughout all of Persia, offering rewards for her return. but Sitara was nowhere to be found. "Aye, aye," Prince Mirdad moaned, plucking hairs from his beard in anguish. He shut himself within his royal chambers and saw no one, not even the queen. He refused the delicious dishes brought to him, and he grew thin and pale. His only companion was a turtle dove that often came to his window. The bird was shy, but the prince was patient, and after many months it let him stroke its head. Beneath the bird's feathers the prince found hard lumps. "Hairpins?" the prince exclaimed. "How strange!" He gently pulled one out. "I shall try not to hurt you, small friend." The turtle dove sat quietly while he drew out four more hairpins. As he removed the sixth one, the bird fluttered and gave a cry. Prince Mirdad cradled it in his arms, and then discovered it was not a dove he held. Sitara! Withdrawing the last pin had broken the spell.
At the wedding ceremony, Prince Mirdad and Princess Sitara sat on a gilded couch as 1,000 matched pearls showered upon them.
Leela and Nahid watched with bulging eyes. Their cheeks burned with jealousy. They puffed up, sputtering with spite, until they were so filled with rage that their hearts simply burst. That was the end of them and their spite, but it was just the beginning of happiness for Sitara, the Persian Cinderella.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us on this marathon of Cinderella stories from around the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any comments, leave them below, and we'll see you next time. Bye.